The presentation that you will see is about the positive and negative narrative of women and men as it pertains to relationships, values, standards, status, and opinions in society. I put together a series of filmed conversations on this topic as a way to find clarity on this subject and a solution. The views and the opinions expressed in this interview project are those of the participants and does not necessarily reflect the views of the entire population. Thank you for watching.
My personal opinion and the difference between as to how a man handles an issue and how a woman handles an issue, pretty much I would say that, honestly, depending on the situation, I feel like, genders don't really matter.
I think men handle issues by just doing it and getting it done. Sometimes I think men don't care about the consequences. When females get things done, they do it 100%. I think when men get things done, they do it 70%.
From experiences that I have gone through, I'd say a big difference perhaps is sometimes, not everyone, how logical they assess the situation. Sometimes, like, I can only speak for myself, so in certain situations when something's tense or bad, I'm thinking of how to solve it and how to fix the problem. And the opposite sex sometimes is like very emotional about that same situation instead of trying to fix it or solve it.
I feel like it's different factors that needs to be addressed before, depending how a man handles an issue and how a woman handles an issue. Like your morals, your character. A man may feel the same way how a woman may feel the same way about an issue, and they may address it the same way if they have like the same morals and character. So I don't think it doesn't have anything to do with gender.
From a man's perspective, I feel like when I was doing assignments, I was like, I want to get this done, I want to get it over with. But when I go over with my sister, she goes through, she wants to make sure everything's on point. She wants to make sure that there's no questions unanswered.
It really depends on the person, actually.
Okay, woo. There's a lot of double standards that a man and a woman faces. For example, relationships, we can just jump into that. If a man is going out with a girl and they break up, right? And then the girl decides to date one of her ex's friends, that's not okay. But it's okay for a guy to date one of their ex's friends. Like, not close friends, but just like, I don't know, if they're cordial or something, it's not okay.
I think females can do whatever they want, and I think men have gotten lazy in 2020.
I'd say females face a lot of double standards in business in terms of like how much they're supposed to be doing and then how much they actually do, because I feel like they end up usually doing way more work than they are supposed to be for their specific role sometimes. Could be the other way around too.
Men have like 50 and women kind of have like 20 or 30% of voice being heard.
Another double standard I would say is domestic violence. It's okay, not to say it's okay, but people don't find it wrong if a woman hits a man, but it's totally wrong if a man hits a woman. And I feel like they're both equal.
A double standard for men might be the idea that he has to provide all the time and never be emotional, be the stone cold, like, I will get things done, like, and they can't really show vulnerability or anything like that, but in half the times, your vulnerability is what attracts certain people to you.
As a female of color, I think for mental health, you're not supposed to talk about it out loud to other individuals. I think you're supposed to only talk to close individuals or whoever you trust, but as far as the whole next generation, the older generation, don't bring it up to them. They don't accept it yet. But you can talk to the young people of younger generation about it.
If we're talking inside of my house, I don't think mental health is necessarily like a very open conversation per se. It's kind of just like, oh, that's how you feel, like, get over it, like, type of thing.
Well, I am a female of color, and I believe it's very important to talk about mental health. Last year, I actually had an older cousin that passed away from suicide, and he was going through issues that, like, no one didn't know about. And my family, they're all Black. They were like, why did he do this to himself? And I feel like that was very, like, touching to my family and touching to me too, because I never heard of anyone that close to me that committed suicide because of depression or anxiety and stuff like that. And my family was kind of like taken away from it. They were like, we don't have this in our family. We only have like diabetes or cancer and stuff, and they always think it's like a physical disease that needs to hurt someone. But my older cousin was going through like stuff that no one didn't know. So I think it's very important for me as a female and of color now, after my cousin passed away from suicide, is to talk about it to like my friends, to talk about it to my like mentors and stuff like that, because it's a serious issue.
Speaking about mental health, there's definitely one big issue that I feel like has definitely like rolled off of the whole like masculine ideology, where it's like, you know, as a man, you're not supposed to speak about like any mental health issues you have, or like even in like some households, like if you say you're depressed, they'll laugh at you. They'll be like, you know, get better. It's not easy, you know, like you can say things, but like in order to help really achieve change, I feel like that has to come from within you. So sure, other people can tell you that, and you could speak to other people, and sure, speaking to other people is great. However, I feel like, you know, if you really want change and positivity, you either look for it or you can just dwell in your sadness.
Men and women being friends with one another is the best possible relationship.
They don't accept it yet. But you can talk
Say
to the young
female.
people of younger
Female.
generation.
My mother
Basically, there's a stigma
Our generation usually
and my father said
to people who have that.
2020,
Now we have a young generation that sees TV as like, oh, that's my life.
Side of the coin, and you can get a different perspective. Because if I have a heartbreak and I have no one to talk to, and you're my friend, you can give me the best advice you can. But from a woman's perspective, I can get the best advice possible to, you know, rectify the situation I'm experiencing.
Yeah, and it's all about changing the narrative, and that's what we basically want to do. So, you know, if you came and peeked into our conversation, we're having a nice conversation about what men and women can do in our society and how can we change that? How can we change the narrative between men and women? You know, because we bash each other, we talk about one another, and usually it's not about good things. And what we want to do, we just want to shed light on different situations and how can we change that. So basically that's what we're talking about. So guys, how do y'all feel about, you know, different things happen in our society? What do you feel like is the issue between men and women in our society?
Personally, not speaking only for myself, I feel like there's a lack of communication because people rather assume versus inquire. Like, let's go to social media just to begin. If something is posted on social media and it triggers an emotion, people often say, okay, this bothers me, so I'm gonna react emotionally versus hit the person up and have a direct answer on what's going on. Or someone can even have a screenshot of what's being said and somebody sends it to you, oh, do you know this is going on? Do you know that's going on? Men, women, women, men. People just don't speak honestly enough, and people don't have the courage, in my personal opinion, to, you know, be honest with themselves, and be honest with others. So.
How do you guys, you know, perceive social media and how that influences our perception of each other?
I feel like with social media, you have, it's the tone. A lot of people have this tone of portraying their own opinions and not really caring. And you have this whole public opinion that, oh, if I post something, I'm not really thinking about what Sanji or Will or somebody else is looking at. I'm more focused on, this is my opinion, this is my views. And when it comes to other people's beliefs, morals, you're basically threatening that with social media. And with social media, you have this whole array of people stereotyping and hate and all this like animosity that when it comes to whether female or male, it really changes how people perceive one another.
And I feel like that's so true because, you know, we all can be in the area. We all don't have nothing against each other, but because of other people's experiences or because of what other people's been through, they allow their own personal experiences to betray something that's not even, you know, real for everybody. You know, it's not, you know, a situation that everybody goes through, you know, and sometimes they can put that on social media, so that becomes the narrative. Okay, men are this, women are this. And, I feel like we shouldn't do that. We should be able to show love to one another. Do you think there's any way to change that?
Yeah, it depends. Everything is individual. So it depends on who's saying it. Remember the saying that it goes, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words would never kill me or would hurt me. It's a bunch of crap. Words kill. Words have way more authority than we think. So if I say to someone, I hate you because you're gay, I hate you because you're black, that's gonna kill that person.
You're
right? So it really depends on the individual. This is not a white or black issue. This is a whole thing, everybody issue, because we all say things that we want to take back.
Yes.
In our life, right?
Yeah.
So I think social media, the way the individual uses it, affects what we see.
And certain things we really don't mean. You're just saying it out of anger. You're saying it out of impulse, and so
that's why you got to be slow to anger and slow
quick
to speak, but quick to hear.
Quick to hear. That's right. That's so true. And I feel like that's what everybody has to do. They have to take a step back and be like, okay, let me reevaluate everything. Let me reevaluate myself first, because the problem could be within ourselves. It's not really sometimes a gender thing. It could be actually you personally, and I feel like we can get better with that.
I could say something also about social media and like relationships in a way. A lot of people utilize it in the wrong way, whereas they'll like overshare their own relationship issues on social media. And to me, that's toxicity. Like you're not really taking your time to speak to your significant other or, express yourself in the way that you express yourself online. And that happens quite frequently with people around our age group. Yeah. I feel like that's a big no-no. Like we utilize social media in the wrong ways when it comes to friendships, relationships, throwing subs. You all heard about that before.
Yes,
let's use it in a more uplifting manner, because you're only doing damage to yourself at the end of the day by, utilizing in the wrong way.
Yeah. Do you think, for any of you, do you think that it can be pride? Can it be an ego thing as well?
Sure. Yeah. That's all it is.
It's literally all ego, in my opinion, because there's no gray area anymore. It's literally black and white. It's either people love you or hate you on social media.
Yeah.
And the issue with that is no one's challenging the people who with these negative comments to say,
that's right.
Challenge yourself to think differently.
Yeah.
People rather just adapt a mindset because everyone else is following that same train.
Yeah.
And it's kind of annoying to deal with, honestly. But as Sanji said, as Will said, people got to utilize social media for the better, because the point of social media is for us to connect with one another and learn from one another.
That's right.
There's no reason why someone posting something should bother you, and then you get triggered by someone else's comments.
Exactly.
That shouldn't be the case at all. You should have enough self-control to understand, hey, guess what? I may not agree with this, but it's just not me. It's still not my life. It's still not my social media. It's not my platform. I can do what I want still.
That's right. Correct. That shows that there's something wrong within you. You have something that you can't.
For example, I'm not on social media.
Yeah.
I'm very private. I keep everything to myself. So I'm not on Instagram. I'm not on Twitter. Nobody needs to know what I think, what I say. No,
you're right.
I keep it to myself.
That's right. And it's all about self-control.
Not to speak like I'm great or anything, but I just don't. I'm very private.
Yeah.
I don't share anything with anybody.
Yeah. And that and I feel like that can be good, because you don't want everybody knowing your business. Somebody is always, talking about, whether
there's always someone negative.
Always somebody talking negative. And I feel like a big part of social media can play from relationships as well. And I feel like a lot of people sometimes they have disappointing outcomes in their relationships, and they take it out on social media. They post, I feel this way, or, this person hurt me in this way. So they take that hurt and display it on social media. And I feel like also as well, it can come from music, and, what you listen to. What you listen to is how you're going to go about your tone. So do you guys feel from experiences or from, knowing different people and their attitude about things, do you think music can really display a certain type of character that's, not acceptable?
Yep, it can. Because we are influenced by what we see and hear.
I think so. I mean, we grow up in an age where you're constantly being bombarded with images and videos all the time, be it television, film, or social media. Advertisements everywhere that someone's trying to sell you something or give you, alter your perspective a certain way. So I definitely think there's certain roles that are presented to you at a young age all the time that you can fall into. And it doesn't help if your parents validate those roles also on a home basis.
I would say the media doesn't really have much of an effect on my perception of the opposite gender. If anything, it's mostly like my interactions through people in school or you know, socially, pretty much how I'm able to see the opposite gender. And also, yeah, I guess you can say social media helps. There's a bunch of different, like, you know, women or people that, you know, they all like, because, you know, not everyone's the same. So, of course, they're going to have different beliefs and they're going to put those beliefs on social media. And me, being someone who's on there, is going to wind up seeing it, being like, oh, so that's how they think. Or, oh, that's how some women are, not all of them, you know. So, I guess, yeah, in a sense, media, social media to be exact, does affect my perception of women, as well as socially interacting with women and all of that.
The media did influence my opinion on how I feel about the opposite sex. Growing up, like on shows, it was always like a male host and not a female host. For instance, like I'm into music, I'm into like hip hop and stuff like that. If you think about all the radio stations that's in New York right now, it's mostly like men that's in charge of the like the radio shows. Media, they like having like a male on the screen instead of a female.
I think for me, growing up, media did not influence my perception of the opposite gender. I know what you're supposed to do as a female, and I know what you're supposed to do as a man, but for me, media did not impact that at all.
So if you see things on TV, on the internet, or you hear things, music, you watch videos, what are they going to promote? They're going to promote violence, sex, drugs, and all that stuff.
Yeah.
That doesn't
Solve the issue.
no, it makes it worse.
Yeah.
Because you got little kids. That's what we got to focus on. We got to focus on the younger
next
generation.
yeah.
Because they're watching us.
They're exposed to this like crazy.
So we got to watch out for that because they're going to grow up worse than we did. We live in a world that's very egotistical, very controlling, where they want to humiliate you. There's a system that we want to bring you down. You got to be above that.
Yeah.
So that's why we got to change the narrative.
That's right. That's right. And I mean, from a perspective of a male, right? You know, do you feel like music influences also the way a male perceives a woman? And
It does. It does. Like I can only speak for myself.
Yeah.
When I was younger, I used to listen to Jay-Z, 50 Cent, Dipset, Diplomats. All they did was basically half-naked women on strip clubs and all that, putting money on women and stuff like that. I grew up thinking, oh, all women are like that. That's not the case.
You're right.
Right? So then you grow up with drugs and violence and gangs and all that. I grew up with all that.
Yeah.
You know, and it's just not for me.
Yeah, but from the perspective of women, they may say like, okay, it's male's fault. But from a male's perspective, it'd be like, oh, it's a woman's fault. And they'll be like, you know, you should have never dressed that way. Or
it's both parties' fault, in a sense, because music, even TVs, films, art imitates life and life imitates art. So art is only portraying what we're allowing the stereotypes to be put out. So if we're putting out that females are supposed to be home and they're supposed to, men are supposed to be the breadwinners, or, art is going to imitate that in music, in films, and TV.
Yes,
for us to really change that perspective now, even in like modern day, you see more female filmmakers, female empowerment. They're pushing that now, but back then there wasn't that same like narratives of like, oh, well, females have that power to do the same thing that men can.
They were held back.
They were held back.
Yeah, even films, like it also reflected the nature of society. It always reflected, okay,
housewife.
Housewife, male be the breadwinners, and this is what it's supposed to be. This is how a family's supposed to look. And now since roles has changed, do you feel that has also taken its toll on, what men think about women and how women think about men?
Most definitely. Because it also puts a strain on relationships because people have that mindset of, well, that's how things are supposed to be.
So some certain gender roles that have been placed on me when growing up that I'm changing today, I wouldn't say the cooking, because in my house it was different. My dad used to cook more than my mom because my mom was like always working. But I would say like taking out the garbage and cleaning. For cleaning, it was always like the females in my house. Like I always had to clean and stuff like that. And I never touched the garbage, like, because I don't like garbage. I don't like anything like that stinks. But nowadays it's just like my brother cleans because I live with my brother and his girlfriend, and I also take out the garbage. So it kind of changed in that perspective.
Say like in terms of gender roles for me, like the whole like masculine idea is like something that like trying to be like physically strong and mentally strong. Mentally strong, I feel like I already have for the most part. Physically strong is something I'm working on at the gym right now.
Okay, so sometimes as a female, you get excluded. And then they'll be like, oh, go in the kitchen. You're a female. You belong in the kitchen. So I'll go in the kitchen. I'll cook. I'll do my thing. I'm like, all right, I finished cooking. So can I play with you guys now? Like, okay, I can cook and I can build something with tools. Like, okay.
I'm trying to hear the women out. I'm trying to understand what they're going through and see how can I, as a man, help them out. Or should I help them? I mean, like, can I help them out or maybe make them feel like, you know, I'm superior to them? Like, I don't want to feel I'm superior. I just want to say, hey, I want to help you.
Maybe perhaps one gender role is like the difference between me and my sister in terms of our family setting, which is my father owns a company, and in his eyes, I'm the person who should be falling in his shoes and following those footsteps. And he never really pushed my sister that same way in terms of that specific aspect. And then come to reality and I have nothing to do or want to do with that company. And I'm here like going my own way and he's like, what?
Our modern generation and generations after are thinking, well, let's change that and flip it. That way everyone's equal. And some people are not seeing it that way. They're like, well, if you want those modern day roles and you want this to be a relationship, believe those roles and keep it that way. Or people are like, well, you really want to change it. We're equal. So everything we do is equal. And then you might have somebody, a male or female, say, well, I don't believe in those equal roles. And now there's a strain on the relationship and the communication again.
Yeah, and that's where you have the competition and the standards. It's just like, what do you hold this person to? Or what is a woman supposed to be in our society today? Or what is a man supposed to be in our society today? And as you see, women are starting to have more jobs. Women are starting to do more things for themselves. So for men, it can be intimidating. It's like, yo, like, we're like, you know, you're doing all that. So what does that make me? I feel purpose. Yes, I feel purposeless, you know.
Well,
yeah.
In today's society, we can't have any expectations for the other person. Like, honestly, you just have to be and let be, or live and let live. And you have a choice of the type of partner that you want to be with. There are people that are go-getters, that want to be independent, that don't really need you to like put the battery in their back to get started on something. There are others that just need you to be the rock. And that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to provide for them financially or whatever. Just be there emotionally, mentally. That's the most important thing. Like, at the end of the day, you just want somebody to talk to, you want somebody to vent to, and that should be your partner. And we all have different, like, I feel like exposure now for women and for men as well, like it's growing. Like people are taking on different challenges and different job titles, not like what was seen before.
You're right. You're right. And I feel like you can work with your situation. You work with what you got, especially in relationships. If you feel like the woman is more, you know, geared towards working, all right, let her work, let her do her thing. You know, be able to provide the support spiritually, mentally, and physically. You be able to, you know, help one another. So that's what it's all about. It's all about working together, you know, rather than destroying each other.
So, like, you want me to go?
I was going to chime in. I was going to say, personally speaking, I'm all for women being the breadwinner. It's more than enough times where I've seen women in general put in the extra work and get underpaid. So it's like, now I'm happy to see women getting their just dues and better. So it's like, I feel like if you personally have a problem with a woman progressing in life, then you got to just tuck your pride and you just go somewhere else with it, because at the same time, they're the nurturers. They're the nurturers. They're the ones who, you know, teach you about your feelings and your thoughts. They're the ones who sometimes, me personally, I was raised by nothing but women. They taught me how to cook. They're the reason why I'm nice in the kitchen. So it's like, and that's not to say like, oh, they're only good for cooking, but, I was raised by strong women who also,
foundation.
Yeah, exactly, who are also pioneers for the upcoming women behind them. So that's what I like to see. So.
Yes. And to add on to, a lot of men, sometimes men, you know, they don't, you know, take on the responsibility that they need to. And it's the mothers and, you know, it's the aunts that have to pick up the slack. And, you know, they have to take care of the child, you know, when they're, you know, young. And so sometimes you have this idea already, you know, when, you know, the boys or the girls get older that, okay, men are automatically not doing their part, right? And, you know, they get older and they automatically have this idea that, okay, all men are, you know, not, you know, doing right. All men are not there, you know, and it's only the mothers and only the woman that's working.
The
grandmas and everything. And you do see it, and it's sad, but at the same time, do you feel like that could also play a huge role in what, you know, the next the next individual will think, you know, when they're raised around that, when they're not raised around a father or anything, it plays a part in what they think about men?
I think so, because what happened when, like, from my example, I didn't grow up with a father. All I had was my mom and 2 aunts. That's it. They raised me.
I had both parents growing up, and I definitely think that it made me more appreciative of the opposite sex, definitely, because I love the hell out of my mom. Like, flat, like I love my mom. So when it comes to hanging out with girls and things like that, I think she definitely helped and gave me perspective in terms of when I'm building those relationships with the opposite sex.
So no, I did not have both parents, but I always had a father figure growing up. So my mother always had a strong father figure around, a male individual around. These male individuals, they're teaching things. So I got taught how to build a doghouse. We had a dog. I got taught how to build a clubhouse. I got taught how to install the electrical outlets.
My dad, he taught me some things. Like, he taught me how to fix a chair, fix a door. But my mom, she helped me throughout my life.
So in terms of having both parents in my life growing up, yes, I do. You know how men, like fathers and sons, for instance, like, you know, your father would tell you about how to interact with women and all of that. That's something I never got the privilege of. So I had to use my own experiences and like my experiences of interacting with my mom to you know, to show how I interact with women.
My thinking of men as a little kid was, I don't need a man in my life.
Yeah.
I can do it myself. I'm the man of the house. I can do everything. I can fix things. I can, you know, play sports and all that stuff. But I really, as I got older, more responsibilities. I was very irresponsible.
Yeah.
I was irresponsible in school. I was irresponsible at home. I yelled at my mom. I was at anger management issues because I used to think that I was the man. You know?
Yeah.
But that's not the case. So as I got older, and once I reconnected with my father, it's changed completely. Like now, I think it's very important. I think it's crucial.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna go back to the last question that you had before, but I think it's crucial that kids grow up having their fathers in their life, even if that father's not anymore with the mom, but that the kid gets to spend time with the fathers, because they still need father figures in their life. Because a lot of kids now do not grow up with that.
You're right.
Men, little boys and little girls do not grow up with their fathers, and I think it really hurts them in the future. Now going back to what you said before with relationships, happy wife equals happy life. So what that means is not just, oh, because I'm married, no, but I'm saying like when you have a great relationship, your life is set. So it's really, relationships, a great relationship is based on respect, understanding, and communication. When you have all those three, you're golden.
Yeah, and I really believe that, you know, the foundation helps in, you know, having healthy relationships, in having a healthy mindset.
That's why you got to communicate and hear each other out.
Yes.
I wanted to kind of go off of what Will was saying of not growing up with a father and how that affects you as an adult. Definitely true. And I feel like as an adult, you start seeking like a father figure, even in a woman sometimes. Honestly, like somebody to kind of like
talk to,
be there for you, like your father wasn't. You understand? Like, and that can be kind of like a toll on women as well, because the woman wasn't. She's not really there to raise the man in a relationship, but she is there to uplift you. So it's like there's a difference between raising and uplifting. Honestly, there's a lot of toll that can go on a woman aside from her career, relationship, all that. So I feel like those expectations are grand, but they're also very understandable, especially if you know the background of your partner and knowing their upbringing and knowing how you can be there for them. But even so, like for a person that grew up with their father personally, my dad was there for me, but more just physically. Not
the mother
emotionally.
Was the
Not emotionally, not mentally. Physically just there. And yes, it did help because he was a stronghold on the family. Like he kind of like put us in our place in a way, you know what I mean? But like my mom held it down like growing up. So at the end of the day, it's like
you need both.
How do you also, you kind of pick up your habits from your parents. Like you see it, you see yourself. You see your parents in yourself the older you get.
I feel like for me, for a guy who was always, you know, had my mother and father in my life, thank God, you know, seeing how a mother plays a huge role and how the father plays a huge role is so important, because the mother was always there, always took you to school, always, you know, strive for you to do better. She was the nurturer. You know, you'll go to mommy when you want something. You go to mommy when you need anything. So I feel like that was good for that. But also I feel like there's nothing like the presence of a dad. You know, when you have even if the dad is not doing nothing special or crazy, it's nothing like having the presence of a dad, because what the presence of a dad does, it makes you feel like there's a foundation, you know, it makes you feel there's stability, you know, there's, you know, I feel like it's important for a daughter to have her dad in her life, for a son to have her dad in her life, because what happens, the dad is always there to encourage you and make you know that, okay, things will get better, things will be okay. And, you know, I feel like
there's some things that you won't be able to talk to. Like as a son, I can't tell
That's what I was gonna
everything
say.
with my mom. I'm not going to talk about a lot of
That's
things.
right.
And I'm pretty sure it's the other way when you have a single dad with his daughter. His daughter's not going to want to talk a lot of things, you know, because he doesn't know what she's going through. My mom didn't know what I'm going through. She's not a guy. I need another guy to talk to.
Right.
He understands what I'm coming through, like the peer pressure, the temptations of sex and all that. I can't talk to my mom like that. It's like
it's a different.
I need a man. I need to talk to a man. He understands me because he knows. Like he was a boy. He was at the same age. He went through the same experience as I did. My mom didn't go through that.
Like personally speaking, I feel like the dynamic between my mother and my father is that my mother taught me how to be a lover and my dad taught me how to be a fighter. So it's like I learned how to discipline myself. I learned how to be responsible. I learned how to be assertive.
Yes, that's what fathers bring. Yes, too.
And my mother, she told me how to be more understanding, be more relaxed about certain things. Because like, well, I had anger management issues growing up heavy because, you know, growing up the way I did, it was kind of annoying because I was the only boy. I had older cousins, but they were older than me. So they were like, I guess, rough playing, if you will. I didn't like it. I hated it. So I spent a lot of time with my aunts, my cousins, my mom, my grandmother. And then luckily my father, he told me how to just, you know, be a man at the end of the day.
And I feel like also fathers are not afraid to be the bad guy. Like, you know, for their children, like the mothers is like, you know, everything is going to be all right, boo-boo. Everything's going to be all right, sweetie. But the fathers don't care. Like, as long as they're the disciplinary and they know that my kid.
Yeah, but moms be like,
they discipline. No, the mothers
It's a different
too.
discipline with mom and dad.
Mine.
I can share.
Okay,
All right, perfect example. If I would have messed up in school, my mother would give me the talk, maybe a little pat. Like, okay. One day, I thought I was like, my dad told me what a man was one day. Long story short, we got into a physical altercation, and that just opened my eyes. Like, okay, so he was nice to me, and this could have been way worse.
Damn.
Now imagine what the world would do, and they don't have the same love he has for me.
Wow.
So that's the experience that I caught. That I was like, okay, now I got to be more understanding of what's around me in my environment. So it's different.
I feel that it's different between both genders. I feel like because mothers, and not just mothers and fathers, but also just men and women in general, we're just two different species, you know. And sometimes being two different species, it's hard to understand each other, and it can be very hard because we have different emotions. And women themselves, they have things going on within them, internally. So, and men, we just think simple. But women, sometimes they can move out of their emotions, or they could, think better than men. So it's like always this clash with the two different ways of thinking.
But I agree, and I feel like one of the most important things that we can do to change the narrative is allow the other person to just express themselves. Because we grow up with the inability to speak about our emotions.
Yes.
A lot of times in our families, in our friendships, in our relationships, and that really hinders our relationships with people in the future. Yeah. I feel like for y'all, toxic masculinity is a real thing.
Yes.
You have to, like you said, Aaron, be a man. Why? Like a lot of times you got to shut that down too and be a person. Yes. Be a human being. Express yourself. Speak. Say what's on your mind. We have to be women, right? But why can't we just be? Why can't we just express ourselves the way we just do, like how we feel? Yeah. Why is that shunned upon in relationships and friendships? Talking about what's going on in the mental. This is the biggest thing affecting us.
Communication.
As people of color, as male and female, whatever we are, in our society, the inability to express ourselves and mental health is a big thing.
And that's so key. We need to communicate with one another. I feel like so many times we haven't, shared our feelings and, emotions with one another. We've decided to take it out on social media. Yeah. We decided to go our own ways, and we channeled that type of energy towards bashing each other rather than talking it out with each other. And sometimes that can be the problem. And also I understand from a men's perspective, it's so many times where men can just feel like, okay, I have to be the person that's strong. I have to be the person that doesn't show emotion. I have to be a tough guy. When that actuality,
You don't always
no.
have
You
to
know,
be.
we need to express our emotions, express how we feel, because that's what makes us human. We're
human
human.
at the end of the day.
Exactly, we're human too. And personally, I agree with you. I feel like it takes real strength in a man
Yeah.
to express your emotions.
Yes, that's strength
Period.
itself.
Because
Yeah.
as you said, in society, it's toxic masculinity. It's frowned upon for a man to express himself. And I've grown up with that. That's what I said, like, to refer back to what I was saying earlier. I spent time with my aunt and my mom and my grandparents because they were like,
They
they allowed me
do
to
that.
speak.
Yes.
Versus saying, hey, get over it.
And it felt
That's right.
good,
I'm tired of it.
right?
That's right. You don't need that.
It feels good. Release always feels good. It may not feel comfortable, you know, in certain situations, but when you get it out, it's better than keeping it in. Because what happens when you keep it in, it wind up building until it explodes, or it creates the
Yep.
person that you are, and you wind up become a person that
Nobody
not a
wants
lot
to
of
be around.
nobody. I was exactly gonna say
Will
that.
and Aaron
Nobody-
both expressed that they had anger management issues growing up.
Yeah.
These things all correlate.
Yeah.
Yeah, what happened was also that, I'm gonna go into detail. Women want to be heard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Men do not express themselves.
That's right.
We haven't, like Aaron said, we very hard
Yeah.
to admit, hey, I need help.
Yeah.
Hey,
Yes.
this is how I'm
yes.
feeling.
Yeah.
Yes.
We don't talk about that enough.
Exactly.
And
Yes.
it just boils up and then explodes, and then we take it on the women.
That's right.
When the problem is inside.
Come on.
And to add on to what Will's saying, it's also dealing with men's social circles.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of times where men try to elaborate how they feel to another man. They look at you like,
Yeah.
what? Like, what are
Yeah.
you talking about right now?
Yeah.
And that's not how you're supposed to treat a friend. A friend is supposed to be empathetic.
Yes.
Supposed to feel them, supposed to relate and have
Right.
them understand.
Women are way more open to talk.
Yeah.
Men no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Men don't know.
Yeah, and I feel like that's so true. You know, that's I feel like where the downfall can be. You know, with men, because we always, and I feel like it's because things was portrayed to us that we always had to be tough, that we always had to be some type of way. Even in films and television, we always had to be macho, and we always had to do that. But the real strength lies in
The mind.
the mind, and lies
openness.
in and expressing yourself, and
It's
you
not
know,
about
being able to
physical
talk.
strength, it's about
Exactly.
mental strength.
And a lot of people look at the scene rather than the non-scene. I feel like the most powerful things are the things we don't see, like
Yes.
emotions, feelings, and you know, even the words that we're speaking right now. That's more powerful than, you know, something we can do. You know, and us speaking up now is, you know, one of the most powerful things you can do. You know, think about different movements. You know, think about things like the Me Too movement, you know, for instance. You know, things like when you just speak up and your voice is heard, you know, people start to, you know, see things, and people will start to react. And all it takes is for one person to say something and evoke a whole revolt, or evoke, you know, a whole movement, you know. So I feel like if you speak up, things will start changing.
Yeah.
But, you know, piggybacking on the Me Too movement, how do you guys feel about that? Do you feel like for the Me Too movement, it's a great thing for women, or do you feel like it can be, do you feel like men can feel some type of way? Do they feel that, you know, they're being, you know, put as a person that, you know, is trying to always take over? Or how does that make women look? How does that make men look?
I feel like, in a sense, for females, it's justified because now they have a voice and a platform to say something. I mean, before they didn't have a platform,
Yeah.
so if they said anything, people would look at them like, okay, you're lying.
Yeah.
But now the platform for them and the support alone, it's beneficial. And for some people, they view it as, oh, well, there's another case of a Me Too movement. There's another one, there's another one, there's another one. But now that we have the platform and the, you know, the support behind it, why not speak out? Why not say something? Even though if it was like, you know, a month, years ago, you know, speak up and give that sense of support and comfort.
Yeah. Right.
It's definitely one of those like sensitive topics for women who have dealt with any type of sexual abuse growing up or now as a grown woman, you know? So the Me Too movement, definitely what Latricia said, is like empowerment for women everywhere, no matter how small, how big, how vague their issue was with a man or a woman. It doesn't even matter. It's just somebody that treated you weirdly or touched you inappropriately or spoke to you in a way that you didn't like and made you feel uncomfortable. It's everyone's right to express themselves and say, this happened to me and this has to stop. So it doesn't happen to another little girl
Yeah.
or another grown woman at a bar
Yeah.
or whatever the case may be. And I feel like now, changing the narrative, what are we going to do with our children when we grow older, if we do decide to have children? We have to protect them too, and make sure that their voices are heard and they're not afraid to speak up in situations like that.
That's awesome. Yeah, we definitely have to, you know, put the attention on certain topics and put the attention on, you know, certain things, because if not, people would never know.
Yeah.
People would stay out the loop. And I feel like that's so important with us as individuals to, you know, just be able to share and just be able to tell about, you know, certain things. And I want to go back to, you know, the mindsets, you know, and, you know, how do you guys feel about men, you know, when it comes to what they feel? Do you think men feel slighted now that, you know, some of the attention is going on them negatively, you know, that, okay, men are not doing their part, you know, and, you know, women, you starting to see them pick up the pace at work, you know, their jobs and working and taking on different responsibilities in certain roles. And, you know, but, you know, from the instance, it makes a man seem like, okay, I'm not, you know, are you trying to make me look bad? Or, you know, are you trying to, you know, intentionally, you know, destroy the image of a man? Or do you feel like that's just...
If the shoe fits, wear it.
Yeah.
That is it.
Yeah.
Like, you don't have to feel like this is an attack on you personally if you have never victimized a woman in your life. If you have respected a woman in every step of your life.
Yeah.
So honestly, it's like you're not really thinking. I mean, yes, we are thinking about both sides of the coin because we are all equal at the end of the day. But this movement is for those who do feel that, you know, that itch, like, I did that. You know, are you gonna admit that you did this, or are you gonna wait to be called out on it?
Yeah.
But the men can speak a little more broadly about how they feel personally.
I agree with you, and I want to double down and say that men should take the initiative to call other men out, because it shouldn't take a woman explaining her side of the story for a man to say, okay, yeah, I messed up, I had to get exposed, I had to be, you know, casted out to say, yeah, I made a mistake. Your friends should be able to say, yo, bro, you're doing too much. Like, relax. Like, this is not how you treat a woman. This is not how you talk to her. This is not how you converse with her.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And I think that's so true. I feel like the quicker we change ourselves, the quicker we change, you know, the situation around us. You know, we have to look, like Michael Jackson said, and the man in the mirror. You have to look in the mirror seriously and be like, you know, I see that situations is not changing around me. I see that certain things is not happening for me. Maybe the issue is with myself. You know, maybe I have to change something within myself. And if I change something within myself, I can change the narrative, you know, and, you know, maybe so much, you know, things said won't be said negatively against, you know, my gender, or, you know, maybe let me start making a change on myself first and, you know, help for men to get better, help for women to get better, you know, help for the idea of what a woman is in our society to get better, help for what the idea of a man to, you know.
I'm gonna chime in on that. I'm gonna say that's hard for men to do because men aren't called out enough.
Yeah.
I feel like I've seen men do crazy. Like, my family, I'm gonna be open, my family, there's certain people in my family that battle addiction, and they've had certain men around. And I've seen men do foul things. But no one says, yo, no one calls them out on it in the moment.
You're right.
People just react like, oh, I'm frozen, like I don't know what to do. So
and,
I understand.
But if it's the opposite sex as well, they'll lash out even more, you know, and, you know, they'll say, you know, they'll take more initiative. I feel like that's also a good point too, because do you feel like for certain issues, the attention is more on men, and for other issues, the attention is more on women? Like, okay, if it's a woman, why are you dressed that way? But if it's a man, no, you're okay.
Yeah, double standard game. Yeah. Personally, I agree, because it's not fair or equal on how we treat certain things. Like for example, domestic violence, right? If a woman is getting abused by a man, you know, that's not it. Like, you out, you done.
Yeah.
But if a woman is abusing a man, it's like, oh, bro, you can handle that. Yeah, it's not. Don't worry about it.
But
That happened to one of my close friends, and then he really got into a real issue, and then it didn't take for him until he got a gash across his face.
Wow.
For people to understand, like, nah, he's really been getting bothered, but he didn't know how to express himself because he was getting teased when he did.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's a lot.
Because men are very hard, like we said earlier. Men are very hard to open up. They don't want to open up because it makes them seem weak, and that's not true.
Yeah.
You're stronger when you open up, because then people should be able to help you and say, hey, This is how you got to do. You got to handle this. Go to the authorities, or so and so and so forth. Because domestic violence is not just men beating up on women.
No.
It's also women beating up on men. And what makes it worse, the worst type of domestic violence is not physical. It's more mental and verbal abuse.
Yeah.
Because like I said earlier, words kill. What you say has power. So if I say I hate you, or you don't know what you're doing, you don't know how to cook. If I tell my girlfriend, hey, you don't know how to cook, this doesn't, and I just throw it in her, it's gonna hurt her.
Yeah.
Maybe that's not physically I'm hurting her, but emotionally,
It takes its
mentally, is I'm hurting her a lot. And if I do that consistently, she's gonna break apart. And then whose fault is it? It's my fault because I didn't control myself. I didn't learn how to express myself. So it really goes back to me. I really believe all this stems from your upbringing. I really think the way guys are brought up as kids makes what men are today, right? And also for the girls grow up to what they are today. I think it really goes back to the upbringing. I really do.
I'm gonna chime in with that. So with my sister, I have a niece and a nephew, the twins, and the way how she raises the both of them, she tries to raise them the same, but you see how different it is. They'll go to a party and then they'll dress a certain way, and she'll yell at my niece to be like, "Oh, you're not supposed to dress like that. That's you're gonna portray that you're almost like a." So you're portraying yourself more than what you are. If she puts on jewelry or she puts on a certain type of or put on like makeup or something, oh, you're acting too grown. While my nephew's going and acting wild and doing all this stuff, and it's like, if you're giving them the same treatment, make sure they're on the same ground. If you're doing that for her, do that for him as well. And I mean, there's a video trending online on Instagram of a little girl getting beat.
Wow.
Of her fathers came home and saw her and some other boy in the house together. And I was like, if that same treatment was for a boy, if a boy was in that situation and his mom came home, would that same treatment happen? Would that same attitude be put on a person? Because you see as females, you're like, oh, you're over-sexualized, you're dressing like this, or you're showing too much. But when a boy shows too much, it's like, oh, whatever, that's fine.
I always said growing up, because I grew up with two brothers, they're twins as well. Mothers raise their daughters and love their sons a lot. Like that happens a lot in our situation as women. Like, yes, we're loved too, but like we're more than anything, we're raised. We're shown to be responsible from the get-go. We're shown what's right and wrong. And then our brothers are like, if you had a brother, then he would be just loved. Like, and kind of just pampered in a way. Whereas you feel like you have to do. So it sounds like, the girl twin and the boy twin, they're being raised differently because of that.
Yeah.
But there's also like going back and just giving equality to both of them because she's gonna feel like it's unfair.
Yeah. And for me, that's what I try to do. I'm like, I'm not gonna try to like say, oh well, because you're a girl, you have to be in this certain mannerism. It's like, no. As a girl, you can have the mannerism as a boy. You can have the mind as a boy. You can have the mindset of a girl, but you're not acting as the personality and the traits of a girl. You can just have that mindset to be like, all right, I know what I'm doing. How it's affecting the other person.
Yeah.
So I mean, that way, in a sense, it would help people understand one another a lot more if they came with the mindset of, like, I'm doing this, but if I do this, how does it affect a man? And as a man, how does it affect a female?
And I feel like that's so true. I feel like we touch bases on some of the solutions, how to express ourselves, equality, upbringings. Do you feel like there are more solutions? What do you guys think are the main solutions to stopping this, in society?
It's communication, man.
Yeah.
I was gonna say that.
Men gotta hear the females more, and they gotta open up more. They gotta start to change their mentality because men think a certain way and a female thinks a certain way.
How can we change the mentality?
More self-accountability for the things that may trigger your partner. Simple as that.
No matter what sex you are.
Yeah.
I like that. But, and also to add on, how do you feel, we can change that mentality? What do you think can change,
I can't change anybody else.
Yeah, you need to change yourself.
I can only change myself. I can't change Aaron. I can't change you. I can't change her. I can't change her. I can only change myself.
Yeah.
And I think people got to stop worrying about what other people think.
Yes.
I think one of the biggest problems
You're on
in
your
our
own path.
society today is we try to please everybody.
Mhm.
You ain't
Be
gonna
careful.
please everybody.
You're not.
Unfortunately, that's not the case.
You're not.
So you can only please God. That's it.
Yeah.
That's what our pastor used to say.
Mhm.
Between pleasing God and pleasing people, please God, because
That's
people
right.
are always gonna find something in you.
That's
So
right.
like, you may like what I do, you may not like it. So I'm not gonna please both of you, right?
That's right.
So that thing really, we gotta stop pleasing everybody and start pleasing the Lord.
And I think you bring out a good point too. A lot of the generation
Not to bring it to
have-
religion.
Yeah,
thing,
but no, we're not bringing it to religion, but we're just bringing it to straight facts or straight things that are natural. And I feel like a lot of the things that affect us are the seen things. What about the things we don't see? Faith. How about we have faith that things can start changing for us? And I feel like a lot of things have happened because we took the focus out of God. And a lot of families and foundations, they don't have faith. They don't have something to keep them connected. And for me,
There's too many broken families.
too
out
many
here.
broken families. And for me, in my situation, God was always at the center. And I'm a born again believer of Christ. And I feel like for me, that was always the center of my family's household and what kept us knit and close knit. And when you have that, you can raise your children up to know the things that are right and have morals and have things that help us to live right as human beings alone. So I feel like we've strayed away from morals and strayed away from God, and I feel like that's the foundation. And to mend people together and to bring the mentality to the place where it needs to be. So I thank you guys for really sharing that. That was really excellent, and hopefully we can continue to have conversations like these more often, So, this was Changing the Narrative, and I hope you guys enjoyed. And this was a small discussion about the things that took place in society and the things that we need to change from one sex to the other. And, we just got to change ourselves, and we got to be more open to other people's opinions and being able to express ourselves, show equality, and show all the things we need to be more successful. I thank you guys for listening.